A fishing vessel hauls a net of fish onto the deck, and among the catch there is a strange, screaming creature. Without thinking twice, the ship's captain pulls the trigger, and with that single shot, a new branch of human history begins. An ordinary man, Barclay Dupin, wakes up in the middle of the night to an urgent call to work. Waking his daughter Kirby, he asked her to go stay with her mother. There has been an oil spill in the sea near Scotland, and he needs to be there. As he boards the aircraft, Barclay warns the general that a mistake has been made. He is a civilian and has nothing to do with the man he is supposedly replacing. But the general has too many other concerns and pays no attention to the young man's words. By a twist of fate, Barclay ends up flying with the rest of the group to a deserted coastline. There he sees something astonishing and terrifying: the body of a marine creature he had previously only seen in children's books, Homo aqua. That is the name the general gives the being. He explains to the uninitiated that this creature is not an alien. On the contrary, such beings appeared in the waters of our planet long before the emergence of humanity. What he sees shocks Barclay so deeply that despite being an atheist, he instinctively crosses himself while staring at the monster. That same night, the creature's body disappears. Its kin reclaim it, but this is not enough for the inhabitants of the sea. They initiate contact, prepared for the possibility that they may have to fight. General Pierce manages to deliver a conciliatory speech, and a representative of Homo aqua agrees to a temporary truce. At the same time, they declare that they no longer intend to remain silent. From this day on, negotiations begin, and ships carrying hundreds of the same deep-sea dwellers appear across the world. The London government realizes it must respond. They construct a lock leading from the river into a reservoir at the center of a grand hall. This is where negotiations between the two civilizations will take place. Barclay does not remain on the sidelines either. As the only civilian witness to the first contact, he is invited to take a place of honor. The reservoir fills with water, and the hall's main guests appear. A delegation from the underwater world led by their leader, Salt. Humanity is meant to be represented by an envoy from the Water Committee. But after a few brief remarks, Salt refuses to conduct discussions with him, demanding that she speak only with Barclay. The government asked to postpone the negotiations in order to vet the man no one had heard of before. The operations commander-in-chief, Kate Stewart, orders Barclay to be taken to an interrogation room so she can personally determine how he is connected to Homo aqua. Barclay himself does not understand why Salt chose him. He has never been involved in anything significant and has always considered himself a quiet, unlucky nobody. But Salt demonstrates how Barclay showed respect for the fallen Hamakwa by crossing himself. Hamakwa interpreted this gesture as a sign of respect. That is why Salt chose Barclay for the negotiations. He tries to be honest and to answer all of the guests' questions with dignity. As an argument, Salt asks the ambassador to drink a glass of water drawn directly from the river. At that moment, Barclay realizes that a formal diplomatic discussion will not work, and that he will have to speak for himself. The man apologizes for humanity's pollution of rivers, seas, and oceans, and assures Salt that they will fix it. However, according to expert estimates, it would take 45 years to even partially cleanse the planet and its oceans of pollution. This option is completely unacceptable to Salt, and in order to help humanity, she decides to return all the waste currently lying in the ocean. The Parliament building trembles. Millions of tons of garbage, plastic, polyethylene, and rusted old ships fall from the sky, filling cities and countries across the world. Stewart demands that Homo aqua stop, but Salt only laughs in response. They have not given humanity anything new. They have merely returned what was thrown into the ocean. The world's largest cities are paralyzed by thick layers of plastic waste. Damage is already measured in the hundreds of billions, and it becomes clear that a peaceful treaty with Homo aqua must be concluded urgently. Barclay appears at the podium once again and asks Salt to state the terms of the truce. The terms turn out to be quite simple. The aquatic inhabitants are tired of the chaos humans have created on the planet, and now they demand the establishment of boundaries. Humans remain on land. Hamakwa live in the oceans, seas, and rivers. No one is allowed to send ships or aircraft across or above the water or otherwise interfere with their measured way of life. The government believes these demands are too harsh and impossible to fulfill. To avoid escalating the situation, Barkley asks for some time and Salt agrees. But with one additional condition: the next meeting will take place on the ocean floor. General Pierce gathers the best instructors, and they begin preparing Barkley for an extreme deep-sea dive. At the same time, a team readies a bathyscaphe capable of descending to a depth of 8,000 meters, where the meeting with Homo Aqua will take place. Several additional diplomats are included in the delegation, and all of them understand that they have signed up for an extremely dangerous mission. Barkley's ex-wife and daughter worry about him, but he convinces them that he knows what he is getting into. Even so, his own nerves are fraying. Just yesterday, he was arranging taxis for clients and sitting at a computer. And today, the fate of humanity depends on him. A helicopter delivers the team to the vessel from which the bathyscaphe will be launched. One of the diplomats brings a souvenir, a wooden globe that will allow Homo Aqua to see the planet from above rather than from beneath the water. The most critical moment arrives. The group prepares for the descent. General Pierce descends with the team, and before the dive, he delivers a passionate speech, urging his colleagues to do everything possible to save the world. The capsule slowly sinks beneath the surface. The diplomats tremble with fear as they listen to the metal creak and compress under the pressure, but Pierce remains confident. Nothing terrible is happening and everything is still under control. At the same time, an emergency meeting takes place in a government office. Kate Stewart was not invited, but she arrives anyway to learn about her colleagues' plans. To her indignation, she discovers that some participants are not inclined toward a truce. They refuse to make concessions and intend to enter open conflict. Stewart also hears the word rift mentioned several times, but no one is willing to explain what it means. The capsule descends into uncharted waters, beyond the limits of any maps. Tension rises in the control center. Everyone watches the instruments closely, hoping the mission will succeed. But suddenly, the bathyscaphe comes to a halt, and a second later, an unknown force begins dragging it downward at tremendous speed. Then the bathyscaphe stops abruptly. The passengers put on sealed helmets and stare in horror at the hatch as someone opens it from the outside. At last, a dark passageway appears, and General Pierce must summon his courage and step out first. Leaving the capsule, the diplomats find themselves in an astonishing place. The dark depths of the water illuminated by a strange glow. They are met by Salt, who had risen to the surface for negotiations. Approaching Barkley, Salt asks him to trust her. She removes his helmet and it becomes clear that he can breathe without any additional equipment. The rest of the expedition follows his example, and only the old man Campbell chooses to keep his helmet on. Unwilling to trust Homo Aqua, Salt gives the guests a tour through the mysterious labyrinth of her world. She speaks of how beautiful life beneath the water is, and how deeply they desire peace and tranquility. At one point, she manages to lead Barkley away from the group, leaving him alone with her for a short time. During that moment, they both realize that there is a certain bond between them, one that allows them to reach agreements peacefully. As soon as the group rejoins Barkley, Salt leads the visitors onto a platform. They find themselves before thousands of sea dwellers with whom they are meant to build friendship. Kate Stewart, exhausted and tense, watches the situation with the bathyscaphe from home. She shares her worries with her boyfriend, explaining that many within the government still want a fight, an idea she considers foolish and hopeless, but the couple does not have time to finish the conversation. Kate's young lover notices a laser sight on her face and manages to throw her to the floor, music covering her with his body. The commander survives. Her beloved man does not. At the very same moment, Campbell hands Salt the wooden globe, the very souvenir, but as the sphere begins to glow, everyone realizes it is an act of sabotage. The leadership sent Campbell to strike the first blow. A blinding flash overwhelms thousands of Homo Aqua, and Barkley shields Salt with his own body as all of his companions perish. Federal news channels report that the mission has failed and that all participants are presumed dead, but this is not entirely true. Barkley and Salt surface and are picked up by a rescue helicopter. Screens across the city display the face of a Homo aqua woman who declares that her species is declaring war on humanity. Upon hearing this broadcast, Kate Stewart begins to suspect that it is a deep fake and that someone is deliberately trying to incite hatred. Barkley gives testimony explaining that the sabotage came from his partner, not from Homo aqua. He also cannot understand why Salt has been locked in a cell since she saved him instead of saving her own people. Salt is transported as a highly dangerous prisoner in a metal container. She is supposedly being taken to a division tower, but Barkley realizes that in reality, the Homo aqua woman is about to be handed over for experimentation. Risking his freedom and even his life, the man decides to rescue her. He hijacks the truck carrying the container, drives it to the river and dumps it into the water. After that, Barkley jumps in after it, and the freed Salt helps him breathe underwater. Kate Stewart prepares to leave headquarters to get some rest, but she does not manage to leave. An alert sounds in the command center, warning that creatures from the underwater world are approaching. The commander meets the visitors at the reservoir, and to her surprise, an entire delegation appears once again. This time, Homo aqua is represented by Ambassador Tide. He demands that humans find Salt and hand her over as the Homo aqua woman betrayed her people by choosing to save a human and flee with him. He also announces new conditions for a truce, the same harsh boundaries, and a 5-year deadline for humans to completely abandon the water. Otherwise, he will unleash rust upon the earth, destroying everything humanity has ever built. The gray eminences of the government realize that they now have only one option: to accept the challenge. But to do so, they must find Salt and test the rift on her. Meanwhile, the Homo aqua woman is getting acquainted with life on land. Hiding with Barkley among the ruins of an abandoned building, she tries to understand what to do next. Salt admits that she cannot return home. She betrayed her species and severe punishment awaits her. She will be exiled and forced to swim alone for all eternity. This emotional conversation ends with the first kiss between Barkley and Salt. The couple spends the night together talking about how wonderful it would be to live their entire lives together like this and to give birth to little fish. A joke. Realizing that they cannot simply sit and wait, Barkley takes a phone from a passerby and contacts his daughter and ex-wife. He asks them to bring his documents so that he and Salt can escape the city. But he does not realize that government agents are already nearby and their conversation is being monitored. The meeting location is reported to Stewart and an entire capture team is dispatched. By this point, however, the commander already knows that the Sea Woman is not responsible for the sabotage and that she is in danger just like the rest of the world. Barkley's ex-wife manages to shout that it is a trap, but it is already too late. In panic, the man rushes back and forth across the bridge and begs the Homo aqua woman to jump into the river, promising that he will find her again. Dogs begin to disappear from cities. Responsibility is claimed by Tide, who calls it revenge for the fact that humans eat fish. This behavior only worsens the situation, and the world finds itself on the brink of war. Barkley finds himself in a difficult position. He is not a prisoner, but neither is he free. He is under constant surveillance, and he also suffers from pain in his body and lungs. The only place where he feels even a little relief is in the water. To help him, Stewart sends Barkley for a thorough medical examination, assuming that everything is a consequence of the dive to 8,000 m that he endured. Barkley spends his free time in a hotel, but even there he cannot relax. Cameras are installed throughout the room, and every meal has to be checked to make sure it is not poison. Stewart once again hears mention of the word rift. She tries to get to the truth, but so far she cannot. And this is not the worst of it. Far worse is the fact that Homo aqua have begun melting glaciers, and if they do not stop, the land will soon be submerged. The government once again attempts to negotiate with Tide, but the new Homo aqua leader remains unyielding. Humans have only 5 years left, after which their species will come to an end, and the planet will become free again. Barkley manages to meet with his ex-wife and daughter. He learns that the women have been offered evacuation to a safe location and that he will most likely never see them again. Speaking with him, Barbara realizes that he has fallen in love with Salt, and she hopes this will not bring her former husband harm. It must be said that there are still good moments in Barclay's life. Around him are his people, those who secretly help him, slip out of the hotel at night to reach the sea. Each time the man dives into the water and calls out to Salt, but so far his cries go unanswered. Despite Barclay's attempts to be careful, his nightly excursions do not go unnoticed. Learning about them, the agents who devise the rift decide to turn off the jammers so that Barclay can be used as bait for Salt. Stewart hears about the rift once again and demands an explanation from the minister. He refuses to reveal the secret, but from his expression, she understands that it involves some kind of horrific weapon. One evening does not go as planned. During dinner, Barclay loses consciousness, and while he sleeps, agents in protective suits inject him with an unknown substance. Unaware of this, the man wakes up and follows his usual route to the water to call for Salt once more. This time, a miracle happens. The young woman emerges from the sea foam and they merge in a passionate kiss. Knowing that they have little time, Salt gives her friend a clue. The negotiators must ask Homo Aqua for consent. This word carries sacred meaning. It can stop the war and grant mutual understanding between civilizations. Mutual understanding between civilizations. A happy Barclay hopes that this will be the end of it. He tells Kate Stewart about the word, and her people broadcast a radio signal with an encrypted code. But it is already too late. Bodies of marine inhabitants are washed ashore all over the world bearing traces of a deadly virus. Stewart realizes that this was the rift. The government decided to eliminate Homo Aqua in this way. Barclay is summoned once more for final negotiations, and he looks Salt in the eyes with shame. The Homo Aqua woman is devastated. Her people have been nearly exterminated. She announces that they surrender. Humans may continue to live as they see fit, and Homo Aqua will retreat into the depths. But even this is not enough for the government. They want to confine the sea dwellers to a single location, creating a kind of marine hunting ground. As a final warning, Salt promises retribution. The water humanity has infected with the virus will inevitably destroy them. An urgent call from a doctor plunges Kate Stewart into shock. Upon learning the news about Barclay's health, she finds him and personally drives him to the sea. As usual, he dives into the ocean depths and calls for his beloved, and together they descend into the deep. For the changes in Barclay's body were not accidental. He has developed gills, and now he must live in a new world together with the one he loves. This is where the series ends.